video is going to be kind of an extended cut of my Ishtar Fest presentation. I'm allowed to share the video of my original presentation, but I wanted to re-record it for my channel because there were a few parts that I rushed through a little bit to make sure that I could get through everything in my hour time slot. My presentation is called Feral Inanna: How the Goddess of Civilization Can Reconnect Us to the Wild. So let's get started. My name is Jennifer. You can also call me Naya. This was my third year attending Ishtar Fest, but it was my first year presenting. I'm a longtime devotee of Inanna. She first came into my life in my early teens. From there, my spiritual path has been long and winding. It has waxed and waned over the years. But I approached her again after a long absence, shortly after I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2022. She helped me to get through that experience alive. And then I officially dedicated myself to her in an impromptu ceremony during that time. And I'm pretty proud to say that it has been very easy for me to keep my vow to her. After I recovered a bit and got some of my energy back, I started looking around on the internet to see if there were any other worshippers of Inanna out there who didn't die thousands of years ago. And that's how I found all of you. I've since completed the Rod and Ring initiatory path, which I highly recommend to anyone who is serious about worshiping the Mesopotamian gods. I talked about this a little bit more in some of my other videos on my channel. I was ordained earlier this year by Greenwild Spiritual Fellowship after going through their clergy training program last year. I feel like even if the gods have accepted you as their priest, it's still good to get legal recognition and actual training for serving the community before you go around presenting yourself as a priest or priestess to other humans. For my day job, I am currently an environmental educator, which is something that I feel Inanna led me to, hence the topic of this presentation. I also have a degree in creative writing and English, which is relevant because I'm going to be doing some literary analysis of ancient texts. The purpose of this presentation is to highlight Inanna's aspects that connect her to the natural world, and to show how our connection to Inanna can help us to deepen our connection to nature. In our modern world, a lot of people have lost that connection to nature, which I feel is a big reason why we maybe aren't being as good of stewards for the earth as we should be. And this is quite upsetting to our goddess. Now, I know some practitioners don't really see Mesopotamian polytheism as being a nature religion, but I believe that this view is misguided. Everything is a part of nature. Everything we eat and drink, the air we breathe, the raw materials that we use to build our civilizations, it all comes from nature. The gods are present in every part of nature, and we are part of nature. Nothing is separate or can be separated. In my personal practice, Inanna has shown me an aspect of herself that is directly related to nature and the wilderness. And I am hoping that this presentation will help others to connect with this aspect as well. I believe that she is showing this aspect more now because of the current state of the world. And then at the end of this presentation, I have a guided meditation that will connect you with Inanna's energy, and through her, connect with nature. To begin to understand Inanna in all of her complexity, we must first go back to Uruk, where the written record of her worship was first attested. In Uruk, Inanna was worshipped under three primary aspects: Inanna Ud, or morning Inanna, Inanna Sig, or evening Inanna, and Inanna Noon, or princely Inanna. As morning Inanna, or the morning star, she shows her martial, warlike aspects. In this aspect, we see her as a goddess of war. As evening Inanna, or the evening star, she reveals more of her sensual and nurturing aspects. This aspect is the love goddess aspect that modern people tend to be most familiar with. The third aspect was called Inanna Noon, or princely Inanna, and I see this aspect as the side of her that is most concerned with civilization. Inanna was the patron deity of Uruk at the time when civilization was first starting to really get going. As Inanna Noon, she was a steward of civilization. She grants kingship. She bestowed the maize upon human society, giving us all of the divine powers and arts required for civilization to flourish. So we have the morning star and evening star aspects that kind of balance each other out. But to my mind, it seems like there would also be a contrasting aspect to balance out her princely aspect. If Inanna can appear as both the evening and the morning star, as love and war, shouldn't she also appear as something opposite her princely civilizing persona? To me, Inanna is love and she is war. She is civilization, but she is also the untamed wild. And she has shown this aspect of herself to me. When she first appeared in this way, she gave me the epithets Inanna of the wild, in more specific forms related to specific biomes, Inanna of the steppe and Inanna of the forest. I've translated it to the Sumerian Inanna Ria for ritual and magical use to fit with the other Sumerian epithets. Area translates to wilderness or wasteland, which is a term that I took from the Hulupu tree myth, where the Lilatu demon fled the tree to the wilderness. I've taken to calling her in this aspect feral Inanna in English. A feral animal is an animal that has become domesticated, but then later returned to a wild state. I get the impression that this aspect may have been more celebrated in the pre-civilization days, whereas her other aspects were obviously more important to society when we were first building the cities and figuring out large-scale societies and whatnot. So, just as Inanna's evening star and morning star aspects balance each other out, I also see this feral aspect as necessary in balancing out her princely aspect. We often hear Inanna described as a goddess of contradictions, but I see her more as a goddess of balance, which is super duper important in her role in maintaining cosmic order. In addition to balancing out her princely aspect, I also see this feral aspect as sort of bridging her violent warrior aspects and her more loving and nurturing aspects. Just as nature itself can be both violent and cruel, but it also provides us with everything that we need to sustain life. I don't see her different aspects as separate and contradictory, but more as different energies that make up a complex yet balanced whole. More than any singular individual aspect, Inanna is a union of opposites, a continuous ebb and flow, a bringer of change and transformation. Further, Her nature-focused aspects are not a separate facet, but are inherently present in all of her other aspects. Her sensuous and sexual evening star aspect is embodied in the reproductive drive present in all creatures, including humans. This aspect not only drives human pleasure, but also ensures the fertility of animals and of the land, ensuring abundant harvests, successful hunts, etc. Her warlike morning star aspect not only gives humans the drive to defend their civilizations, but is also present in the forces of nature. Natural disasters keep human civilizations in check. When humans attempt to fight against nature, nature usually wins. Even her princely aspect could not exist without her nature aspect, for civilization is built upon resources given to us by nature. So I don't see her different aspects as separate and contradictory, but as different energies that make up a complex yet balanced whole. The image shows how I visualize her different aspects in my personal practice. My brain really likes symbols and visual diagrams, so over the years, I've kind of organically organized her different energies around a diagram of her star symbol, color coordinated to the colors that are normally used in Western magical traditions for the directions and elements, plus the intermediary shades. Really, this can be more accurately visualized as a sphere of infinite points in gradient colors, since really, she is far too complex to try to fit into just 8 little boxes. Notice how the gradient on the nature-focused side is less pronounced, with like different shades of green. There is less division between the different parts of nature than between the different parts of civilization. Though I would argue that civilization is still a part of nature. Humans naturally evolved to create civilizations, in much the same way that bees naturally build hives, and beavers naturally build their vast dam complexes that can completely reshape the wetlands they inhabit. These aspects, though not named specifically, do show up in the literary record, in myths and hymns featuring Inanna. I've chosen a few pieces to explore that I think demonstrate these themes well. We see her sexual aspects connected to agriculture and fertility of plants and animals in love poetry featuring her and her consort Dumuzi. We also see her warlike aspects conflated with the destructive aspects of nature in myths such as Inanna and Shukalatuda, and in the works of the High Priestess in Heduana. In the earliest records, we see that Inanna's connection to sexuality and to agriculture were intimately intertwined. She is the embodiment of both the fertility of the land and of livestock. She is connected to the storehouse, where the surplus harvest was stored. So she is the force that allows life to exist in the first place through reproduction, and to continue to exist through food production. She is so strongly tied to sexual reproduction that in the Akkadian version of the descent myth, when Ishtar is in the underworld, no one, neither human nor animal, can engage in sexual intercourse, so the entire cycle of life is broken without her. After the goddess went down to the realm of no return, then there was not one single bull that impregnated a cow, and there was not one single donkey that mounted a jenny. There was not one single youth who made love to a local girl. Rather, the youth remained asleep within his own chambers, and the girl went to bed only in the company of her close kith. The literature exploring Inanna's sexual relationship with Dumuzi could also be read through a lens of representing the relationship between humanity and nature. In these writings, we see that depictions of sexual intimacy are always paired with feelings of joy and happiness. There is a reciprocity between the lovers, each ensuring that their lover is satisfied and well taken care of. For example, here is an excerpt from The Courtship of Inanna and Dumuzi. Inanna spoke, "My vulva, the horn, the boat of heaven, is full of eagerness like the new moon. My untilled land lies fallow. As for me, Inanna, who will plow my vulva? Who will plow my high field? Who will plow my wet ground? As for me, the young woman, who will plow my vulva? Who will station the ox there? Who will plow my vulva?" Dumuzi replied, "Great lady, the king will plow your vulva. I, Dumuzi, the king, will plow your vulva." Inanna, "Then plow my vulva, man of my heart, plow my vulva." At the king's lap stood the rising cedar. Plants grew high by their side. Grains grew high by their side. Gardens flourished luxuriantly. So as we see here, the ancient Sumerians' dirty farming metaphors were on point. Business idea. OnlyFans, but it's just readings of ancient love poetry. Of course, human nature being what it is, we can also be very selfish. We sometimes take more than we give, or take what isn't ours to take in the first place. We often feel entitled to the gifts given by nature, and don't think twice about violating the natural world for our fleeting desires. Which brings me to another myth about Inanna. In the story of Inanna and Shukalatuda, the gardener comes upon the goddess sleeping under a tree in his garden. Instead of just leaving her alone like a normal person would, he decides to violate her as she slept. One interpretation that I've come up with for this myth is that Shukalatuda's violation of Inanna and her swift retaliation is possibly a representation of humanity violating nature and the consequences of such acts. Shukalatuda, the son of a gardener, is characterized as being pretty shit at gardening. He was to water the garden plots and build the installation for a well among the plants, but not a single plant remained there, not even one. He had pulled them out by their roots and destroyed them. This seems to foreshadow what is to come next. Shukalatuda can't nurture a garden. He can't make plants grow. He only destroys them all. He is incapable of giving the garden what it needs to thrive, and it reciprocates in kind by not producing crops and leaving him hungry. This myth stands in stark contrast to the literature detailing Inanna's relationship with Dumuzi. Rather than the loving, joyous, and reciprocal exchange we see between Inanna and Dumuzi that results in bountiful harvests and abundance, when the impotent gardener Shukalatuda happens upon Inanna, he feels entitled to violently violate her as she sleeps, without permission and without any concern for her autonomy or pleasure. Just like his relationship with the garden, there is no care, no reciprocity, no love. So when Inanna wakes up and realizes what has happened, she is understandably very angry. She goes into a rage to bring vengeance on the person responsible. She brings about death and destruction. She fills the wells with blood. She sends floods. She sent a dust storm. She blocked the highways. Then, when she finally finds him, she kills him, and rightly so. Just like Inanna, nature won't passively allow itself to be exploited without consequences. So is it any coincidence that our exploitation of the natural world has led to climate change and increasingly unpredictable weather patterns? Why shouldn't nature seek retribution against our violations against her? We have seen that Inanna can bring abundance and joy to humanity, but that she demands reciprocity. She isn't one to be taken advantage of or disrespected. Just as easily as she can embody the nurturing, fertile aspects of nature, so too does she embody the frightening and destructive forces of nature. We can see this theme illustrated in the works of the High Priestess and Hedwana, particularly in Inanna and Ibe and Lady of Largest Heart. In Inanna and Ibe in particular, we see similar themes to those illustrated in the Shukalatuda myth, in which Inanna becomes enraged after being disrespected by the mountain. She brings forth a slew of natural disasters, such as forest fires. When I, Inanna, was walking around in heaven, walking around on earth, as I approached the mountain range of Ibe, it showed me no respect. Since they showed me no respect, since they did not put their noses to the ground for me, since they did not rub their lips in the dust for me, I shall personally fill the soaring mountain range with my terror. Against its magnificent sides I shall place magnificent battering rams. Against its small sides I shall place small battering rams. I shall storm it and start the game of holy Inanna. In the mountain range I shall start battles and prepare conflicts. I shall prepare arrows in the quiver. I shall do something with sling stones, with the rope. I shall begin the polishing of my lance. I shall prepare the throw stick and the shield. I shall set fire to its thick forests. I shall take an axe to its evil doing. I shall make Gibble the purifier bare his holy teeth at its watercourses. I shall spread this terror through the inaccessible mountain range Arata. Like a city which An has cursed, may it never be restored. Like a city at which Enlil has frowned, may it never lift its neck up. May the mountain tremble when I approach. May Ibe give me honor and praise me. One way that this story can be read is as a metaphor for the consequences of failing to treat nature with the proper respect. The mountain didn't respect Inanna, and so she destroyed it. In Lady of Largest Heart, we see more evidence for Inanna's connection with the natural world. Much of this poem describes Inanna in terms of destructive forces of nature. She is described as having the powers of a storm god. She stirs confusion and chaos against those who are disobedient to her, speeding carnage and inciting the devastating flood, clothed in terrifying radiance. It is her game to speed conflict and battle, untiring, strapping on her sandals, clothed in a furious storm, a whirlwind. She wears the garment of ladyship. It is interesting to note that in this passage, Inanna is described as being clothed both in the destructive natural phenomena, but also in the garment of ladyship. She has command over nature. but also represents high status in human society. She is also described as being similar to a variety of fierce animals that strike fear in the hearts of humans. Lions, of course, make an appearance, as do birds of prey and poisonous snakes. On the flip side, she is also described in ways that show her as a goddess who nurtures humanity. For example, she is called a great cow among the gods of heaven and earth. Now, to me, Inanna's energy feels quite a bit different from that of what we would normally consider a mother goddess, or think of as the archetypal Mother Nature. I've had a lot of people describe her as a mother goddess to me, but in my experience, she isn't really a mother goddess per se. She does care deeply about those under her care, don't get me wrong, but she isn't really the nurturing, motherly creation goddess in the way that, say, Ninhursag is. I also get that type of motherly energy a bit from Ningao and Inanna, but not so much from Inanna. Rather, Inanna is more present in the connection between humans and the natural world. She gives us the path towards balance and unity with nature. But when we disrespect nature, when the balance is disrupted, she gets pissed off, and her fury is unleashed, as we saw in the story of Mount Ibe. She isn't the coddling mother, she is the bringer of justice. And when she is described in ancient literature as someone's mother, it is more likely that it is meant more as a title of respect to illustrate what the relationship is like, rather than actually being a mother-child relationship. Much the same way that she is described as Ereshkigal's sister, despite not literally being her sister. I definitely feel Inanna's presence strongly when I'm out in nature. Specifically, I feel her in the liminal spaces between nature and civilization, in areas that are both somewhat natural and part of civilization, such as when I'm working out in my garden or when I'm walking through the metro parks. It's as though she is the force connecting civilization to the natural world. For my day job, I am currently an environmental educator, and I strongly feel like Inanna had a hand in pushing me toward this path. Probably about a year or so ago, I was starting to feel a bit dissatisfied with my previous job, so I petitioned her to guide me towards something new, something where I could actually do her work in the world. So I ended up doing my second AmeriCorps term, this time doing environmental education for youth through a government agency. Now, my AmeriCorps program got cut at the end of April due to all of the Doge cuts. But my host site hired me to finish the remainder of my term. It's kind of like an intern to finish up my projects through the end of the summer because I'm awesome and Elon Musk sucks. So, in a weird roundabout kind of way, my work is kind of similar to that of the old-timey priestesses, in that I am employed by the government to do the work asked of me by my deity. So why is Inanna showing this aspect of herself now? So just as Inanna brought the maze to human civilization in the time when urban centers were first being created, which significantly changed the way that humans lived, she could potentially inspire such change in the way our species lives once again. We moved away from living in harmony with nature to build cities such as Uruk. This allowed us to work together more efficiently, to invent innovative new technologies, to create art, to share cultural ideas across the globe through extensive trade networks, etc. But the cost of this is that over time, we have also lost our connection to the natural world. And because of this lost connection, a lot of us no longer respect nature. We abuse it. We feel entitled to take without giving anything back, just like Shukalatuda. And we are quickly making our planet unlivable. And I think that Inanna sees everything that is going on in the world today, and she is pissed. She gave us all of these great gifts for civilization. She gave us the powers to transform nature to build civilization. But we're abusing those gifts. We don't need to abandon civilization and go back to hunter-gatherer societies or anything like that. We just need to find a balance between the needs of civilization and the needs of the natural world. We need to stop wasting natural resources and polluting natural areas. We can use natural resources, but we need to do it responsibly. We need to stop putting profits and greed before the things that actually matter. And I think that the first step in changing the way in which we interact with the natural world is to change our relationship with nature. We need to think of ourselves as part of the natural world rather than separate from it. And the gods can help us to do that. Since most of us already have some sort of relationship with Inanna, I have a guided meditation that is meant to help you to connect to nature through your connection with the goddess. I wanted to kind of replicate the feelings of connection that I feel to her when I'm out in natural spaces. So we will first connect with her in the familiar setting of a temple. Then we will journey away from the temple and go into the wilderness while still maintaining our connection to her divine presence. Find a comfortable position and let your mind and body relax. We will start by taking a few deep breaths in and out. In and out. I will begin with some simple chanting, the way that I begin my devotional practice to Inanna every day. You may continue to focus on your breathing, or if you wish, you may chant along with me. Inanna nin ana, Inanna nin kia, Inanna nin me shara, Inanna nin shagara, Inanna mulhud mulsig, Inanna tumukal nana, Inanna ama pering ana, Kuginana zamizu du gaam, Inanna nin ana, Inanna nin kia, Inanna nin me shara, Inanna nin shagara, Inanna mulchud mulsig, Inanna tumugal nana, Inanna ama pering ana, Kug Inanna zamizu du gaam, Inanna nin ana, Inanna nin kia, Inanna nin me shara, Inanna nin shagara, Inanna mulud mulsig, Inanna dumugal nana. Inanna ama pering ana. Kuginana zami zudu gaam. Inanna nin ana. Inanna nin kia. Inanna nin me shara. Inanna nin shagara. Inanna mulud mulsig. Inanna dumugal nana. Inanna ama pering ana. Kug inanna zami zudu gaam. Inanna nin ana. Inanna nin kia. Inanna nin me shara. Inanna nin shagara. Inanna mulud mulsig. Inanna dumugal nana. Inanna ama pering ana. Kug inanna sami zudu gaam. Inanna nin ana. Inanna nin kia. Inanna nin me shara. Inanna nin shagara. Inanna mulkud mulsig. Inanna dumugal nana. Inanna ama pering ana. Kug inanna zami zudu gaam. Inanna nin ana. Inanna nin kia. Inanna nin me shara. Inanna nin shagara. Inanna mulkud mulsig. Inanna dumugal nana. Inanna ama pering ana. Kug inanna zami zudu gaam. Heyam. You find yourself in the courtyard of an ancient temple complex. The sun is beginning to set behind the ziggurat. The radiant glow of the setting sun illuminates the sky behind the temple in shades of orange and purple. A beautiful statue of Inanna stands at the center of the courtyard. You gaze upon her, feeling awe and reverence as you notice the details of the effigy. How she is dressed, how she is posed, the way the light from the setting sun casts its shadows over her figure. The air has begun to cool. The hustle and bustle around the temple and throughout the city slowly stills. Temple staff have returned to the inner chambers of the temple, but you do not follow them. Now that you are alone with Inanna in the courtyard, you take a private moment to connect with her, to feel her presence, to offer her gratitude. Perhaps you bow low in reverence, or perhaps you simply stand silently in quiet contemplation. You feel the goddess's presence around and within. A bright point of light begins to form at the center of your chest. It gradually expands, radiating divine light. You feel a warm, tingling sensation expand from your chest, settling upon your shoulders, the back of your arms, down through your torso, extending to your legs. This energy courses through your body, from your root to your crown, and back down in a continuous cycle. The energy is strong and steady, yet burns with passion. Within it, you sense the divine wisdom of the goddess. You feel her nurturing compassion. Knowing that Inanna is with you in every step you take, you confidently walk toward the northern gates. Past the gate, you descend the staircase connecting the upper terrace of the temple complex to the natural ground below. Perhaps you notice how many steps connect the gate to the world below. Was this climb easy or challenging? Whether the climb was tiring for you or not, when you reach the bottom, you feel relaxed and refreshed. It is getting darker still. You leave the temple complex by foot, following the path northward. The path takes you away from the city. You pass by farmland, fields full of crops, barley, lentils, grapevines, pastures full of sheep. You see a forest straight ahead in the distance. The setting sun is now positioned behind the mountains to the west. Just a bit of orange light illuminates the sky beyond the mountaintops. Take note of what you see, hear, smell, feel. Perhaps there is a breeze. How does it feel? From what direction does it blow? Do you see or hear any animals or birds? Is there any plant life that stands out to you? Eventually, the farmland gives way to wilderness. You notice that you are halfway between the temple gates and the forest. Notice how far you have already walked and how far you have yet to go. Perhaps it was a short way to this halfway point. Or perhaps your journey has felt longer. The journey has been peaceful so far. You keep walking down the path. No matter how long it has taken you to reach this point, you notice that the closer you get to the forest, the greater the connection you feel to the natural world around you. A gentle breeze brushes against your skin. A tingling sensation ripples across your shoulders, down your arms, through your entire body. You feel lighter, energized. You feel Inanna's presence in the wind just as strongly as if you were still standing before her at the temple. You feel your attention being pulled toward the other creatures with whom you share your journey. You notice a greater diversity and abundance of plant and animal life as you approach the forest. Take note of what creatures and plants stand out to you as you make your journey. Eventually, you arrive at the forest entrance. The sun has fully disappeared behind the mountains. You keep walking down the path into the forest. It is dark, darker than you've ever imagined. Your attention returns to the inner light at the center of your chest. You feel Inanna's divine presence, even here in the forest, far away from the temple. You understand that she is guiding your way through the darkest night. In the darkness, your other senses are more acute. Your hearing, your sense of smell, the feeling of the wind caressing your skin, and even those ephemeral, unnamed senses that you've perhaps never been able to name. A wave of calm washes over you as you listen to the sounds of the wilderness, the forest creatures, the wind, the faint sound of a flowing river muffled by the trees and vegetation. Perhaps you pick up on the scents of the foliage or the distant running water. You are alert to your surroundings, but you relax, knowing that you share this intimate connection with nature, with the planets, with the gods. As you wander through the forest, you eventually come to a small clearing. You realize that your eyes have adjusted to the starlight and moonlight. You look up and notice the moon. What phase is the moon in? You take a moment to bask in the glow of the moon or the darkness, however much light it reflects on this particular night. Perhaps you offer a silent prayer of gratitude to Nana and Ningal, father and mother of Inanna. Stars shine brightly in the lapis night sky. Maybe you notice certain stars or constellations that stand out to you. Or perhaps nocturnal creatures flying in the night sky. You stay in the clearing as long as you wish, communing with the heavens above. When you are ready, you may wish to continue exploring the forest. What do you see? What do you hear or smell? What do you feel, either externally or within? Take some time to explore the forest, going as deep as you feel comfortable. Perhaps you prefer to stay near the clearing, gazing at the night sky. Or maybe you feel drawn toward the distant sounds of the river. If you feel so called, Perhaps you prefer to go deeper into the darkness of the forest. Whatever path you have chosen, you remember that Inanna is still with you. You feel her divine light within your chest. You feel her energy everywhere in the forest, in the wind rustling the leaves, in the songs of the insects and other creatures singing to the night, in the babbling river stream cutting through the forest. You walk a bit more and notice that you have found your way back to the path that brought you into the forest. You can see the opening in the trees. You return to the entrance where the trees give way to open grasslands. You see the temple towering up in the distance. The path leading back to the city from the forest is clear. You are confident that you know the way. Where you decide to go next is up to you. If your eyes are closed, you may open them. You may wish to write down any details about your experience or your encounters so that you may reflect upon them. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.